Okay, to start out with nouns and pronouns, what I'm going to ask you to do is to go to Edmodo and print off this sheet. I'm not going to fill it in as we go. I'm going to fill it in verbally. But if you are watching this presentation and then have the piece of paper right next to you, you may fill in the blank part, which is the first page, and then go through some of the student exercises on the second page. And then hopefully by the end of that, you will know everything there is to know about nouns and pronouns. Ultimately, a noun is a person, place, or thing, and that's the way you probably learned it in middle school or maybe even early high school. That fourth blank should have idea in it, because a noun can also be an idea. To my way of thinking, that is probably one of the more complex, more complex than a person, place, or thing, but ideas are sometimes the ones that we skip past on a grammar quiz. Know that a common noun is what names any one of a group. Those common nouns are not typically going to be capitalized. They are just very general and non-specific. And then a proper noun is going to name a specific, particular person, place, or thing. Know that also a concrete noun is going to name something that's tangible. You have to be able to touch it. So think about concrete being something that usually you've touched pretty hard in your lifetime if you've ever fallen off a bike. But that's something that you can touch. It is a physical object. But an abstract noun is going to name an idea, feeling, quality, or characteristic. So this might be love or compassion or any one of a number of different feelings or thoughts. And then a compound noun is going to be two or more words that can stand alone, but together name a different person, place, thing, or idea. So think in terms of stop sign or baseball or any one of those compound nouns. And then lastly, G, you're going to find that collective noun is what's going to name a group of people, animals, or things. Now would be a perfect time for you to kind of review A through G on that nouns, that first section. One thing that you could do is, if you've already printed out that sheet, either to the right or to the left, just name one of each kind of noun that you can come up with on your own so that you can invent one before you get to the exercises, and that'll help cement things in. Next stop, pronouns. Pronouns are always going to take the place of a noun or another pronoun. And the thing that you're going to want to refer to always is an antecedent. That is always the word or word group for which the pronoun stands. That's going to be the more specific term that might be renamed. So it might be the specific name of someone or whatever often it's the subject that's being referred to later in the sentence. Know that a personal pronoun refers to the one speaking in first person, obviously, or the one spoken to, that's second person, or the one spoken about, and that is third person. So you're going to have personal pronouns in all three situations. A reflexive pronoun refers to the subject of the sentence and functions as a complement or the object of a preposition. In terms of prepositions, you're going to kind of review pronouns and nouns a little bit when you get to the preposition portion of parts of speech, and that may be something, if you're confused now on prepositions, that you do before you come back to nouns and pronouns so that you understand how nouns and pronouns will bury themselves in a prepositional phrase. D, an intensive pronoun, is going to emphasize the antecedent without a grammatical function in the sentence. E, a demonstrative pronoun, points out a person, place, thing, or idea. And then F, an interrogative pronoun, introduces a question. G, a relative pronoun, introduces a subordinate clause. And this is all very specific, but you'll see kind of the same words, but knowing their function in the sentence is going to come in handy when we do parts of a sentence, and that's going to be our next major unit. And then H, an indefinite pronoun, refers to a person, place, thing, or idea that has not been specifically named. Right there it says to list 19 common indefinite pronouns. Without last year's textbook, I'm not exactly sure how you would do that. But these are going to be words like everyone, everybody, either, neither. Those can often function as the subject of a sentence. Those types of pronouns where they don't need an antecedent because you still understand that we're talking about someone, but it's still not specific. It's not a proper noun. For this next part, the best way to do it would be to go through this on your own and solve these and select answers. And then when you listen to me check them over on this recording, then that'll hopefully steer you in the direction of what you need to study a little harder or what you already know. Some of the whole problem here is that you probably already know quite a bit of this, but you're not going to be aware of what you know and don't know until you give it a shot on your own, and then check it with me. Okay, to check those first three, we're talking about the difference between a concrete and abstract noun. Remember that concrete is something that I can touch, and an abstract might be that thought, idea, or feeling. So, number one, for founders, they are people, and they were tangible. I could touch them, so that is a common concrete noun. Constitution, also common and concrete. It's under glass in Washington, so you could eventually touch it. You might get arrested though, because I think it's like deteriorating pretty quick. And then number three is also common. Freedom is a common noun. It doesn't name a specific, but it is abstract because it is not tangible. You can't touch it. The next section is a little more complex, but you're going to probably be looking for a compound word to get that compound noun. So for number 4, you're going to find that team is your collective noun and baseball is your compound. For number 5, sister-in-law is your compound noun, orchestra is your collective noun. And for 6, baby talk is your compound noun, and litter is your collective noun. So note that those collective nouns may still only be one noun. It's not a hybrid word. It's not a compound, but it still refers to many different people or things in the same category. For the personal pronouns, I think these are a little more difficult because when you get to your parts of speech test, these words are so short. Just in geography, you're not going to see them in the sentence. They kind of disappear a little bit, but you are going to have to recognize them. So personal pronouns, remember those are the ones that happen in first, second, and third person. Number 7, those personal pronouns are I, you, and them. For 8, your personal pronouns are me and his. For 9, your answers are me, she, and us. Remember, hopefully you got to all of those. If you went too quick, you may have only found 1 or 2 and then moved on to the next one. So make sure you go all the way through the sentence thoroughly because those personal pronouns will be all the way throughout. They'll be all over the place. You're going to find 10, 11, and 12 to be a little more complex. For 10, you're going to find that is intensive because it follows that rule of not really having a grammatical role within the sentence. But 11 and 12 are both reflexive because they both refer back to the subject of the sentence in a complement. Okay, for this next section, for 13, you've got that question mark, which is kind of going to point you in the direction of interrogative, and that would be the correct answer. For 14, this, because it points out the paint, is a demonstrative pronoun. And then 15 is another interrogative pronoun because it refers to the videos in a question. 16, because it starts that subordinate clause, whom is a relative pronoun. The next section is just a little bit more complicated because you've got to not just look at those indefinite pronouns, but you've got to select those from the other pronouns because there are a couple of other different types of pronouns sprinkled throughout 17, 18, and 19. So for 17, those indefinite pronouns that should be circled are much, someone, and everything. For 18, it's anybody. And for 19, it's anyone. So hopefully you did not circle themselves or they in 19 because those are not indefinite pronouns. They actually refer to other things and are more specific. I want to urge you to take 20 and 21 and just take another 30 seconds to make sure that you think those are completely correct before I check them with you. The reason being, 20 and 21 look a whole lot more like what your parts of speech test is going to look like. I will probably not ask you some of the differences between reflexive and intensive or demonstrative and interrogative. I'm really just using those as subcategories because if you can master those, then you're going to be, on fire when you can identify all of the different pronouns on a test. But 20 and 21 are exactly what you're going to have to do on the test. So take a second, make sure those are good, and then we'll start checking them. My guess is you're going to get 20 correct, but 21 may be a little bit of an asterisk for you to kind of go back and review. I could be wrong. But for 20, the only pronoun in the sentence is they. Everything else is specific or another part of speech. For 21, the pronoun is that. And I don't know, sometimes that is a pronoun that kind of fades into the woodwork, that people kind of can't see up close. You're busy paying attention to other things in the sentence, but that is your pronoun for number 21. So hopefully this has been at least a decent foray into nouns and pronouns. Remember that that little bottom thing about elements of language, those are not available anymore on elements of language. So what will happen is you'll have to ask me in class, or I'll probably post which areas of our new textbook you can go to for a review of nouns and pronouns, and I'll probably post some sort of review on here for all parts of speech where I could go through pronouns and nouns one more time. So thanks for participating in this. Hopefully you are on fire when you get back to class and can demonstrate a real knowledge of pronouns.